Hi, I'm Ian, and around here I talk about books because I love to yap. However, today's gonna be a bit of a vlog because I really need to reset right now after a few roller coaster weeks wherein I've been sad, I've been happy, I've been sad again and happy again. It's just been kind of all over the place. One of the things that I truly believe in as someone with ADHD is that a clean environment, or at least an organized environment, creates space for an organized brain that has a really difficult time organizing. However, I know that if I actually put in the effort to create the right environment for my brain, it will pay off in dividends. And right now, you can see my kitchen, my living room, and kind of my bedroom are all in a state of disarray. It's not necessarily that these spaces are messy, it's just that they are really disorganized and are full of clutter. I consider clutter to be both an expression of what's going on in my brain and also an external variable that's contributing to the chaos in my brain. So we need to get this in order. I'm going to start off in the kitchen because it's the first room that you walk into when you come into my apartment. It's the first thing I see when I open the door coming back home, which means that it's also the first impression that's being made on my brain when I come home. Don't worry, I'm also going to be talking about books. I'm actually going to discuss how I rate my books because I actually have a formula because I'm a fucking nerd. But before I do anything else, I literally just woke up, so I need to go brush my teeth. I feel like halfway good about where we're at. I put up a rack to hang some hats so that they're at the door and I don't keep dropping them off in random parts of my house. And I started putting things back where they belong in their homes. And I have so much more counter space now, which feels really great. I'm taking a break though because the sun is sort of out, and where I live, the sun does not appear during winter. So although I want to stay focused and I am worried that taking this break will interrupt my flow and I won't get back into it, I also recognize that any sort of sun is a mental health win. So I need to go take care of that as well. See you soon. Okay, I just got home from hanging out with friends. It was lovely. Sat around a fire pit and chatted, and I did some work and people did some knitting, and that was really nice. Talked a little bit about books, and I just love that coffee shop so much. And I really love being able to do that every Sunday. That's what we do every Sunday. I made some good progress before I left. I just got home. I was gone for maybe like 2 hours. I'm gonna finish tidying up the kitchen and send my friends a before and after, because this is how we help keep each other motivated to do this stuff. I can tell you that being in the sun with friends, being around a campfire with friends was really rejuvenating and exactly what I needed. I'm glad that I went with my gut on that one. Walking back into my apartment and having the first room be in great condition was also really, really nice. So I'm gonna keep this energy up. At some point here soon, I'll talk to you about how I rate my books. Okay, I'm gonna do shit now. Gotta go, bye. All right, as you can see, I have done a lot of cleaning this weekend. I really wanted to record the same day, but I could not because I had so much to do. And it was great to get everything in order. When I woke up this morning, I felt like a routine was possible. It's so frustrating because being ADHD means that this won't last forever. It's like, do I even try to do this knowing that I'm going to essentially like reset the clock and like do this all over again? But yeah, because any iota of calm and happiness and like lower stress, priceless, right? Like even just one day where I feel like I have my whole life together is like, that feels really good. I did tell you that I'm going to go through how I rate my books. There's so many times when it's really hard to somehow translate a gut feeling into a number. That's just not how my brain works. Obviously, the last impression is the impression that you're going to walk away with. And that's usually what has informed my ratings of books, but I don't think that that actually gives all the information of my experience of reading a book. I just need to come up with a system, and I need it to be catered to me and what I like in books. So that's what I have done here. I think I'm going to put it up over here. I have my laptop in front of me because I have to be able to go back and forth here. This is like my scorecard. I have different categories of things on which I rate books, and I came up with these based purely on what I find important. I'm not saying that these would be on your scorecard if you made one. Like, these are just what I like or dislike about books. And so here are actually some examples that I literally used recent reads because I only implemented this recently, but these are some recent reads that I scored using this tool. I did actually score some books that I read in the past sort of retroactively, and I tweaked this calculation until I came up with something that was about a quarter star off. I have 6 different categories, and each of them is given a weight. The first one that is the most important to me, so I gave it the most weight, was 30% for emotional and intellectual impact. So when I read a book, I want it to linger emotionally. Sometimes I want to be challenged by the emotions that are being... Honestly, if a book makes me cry or if it makes me feel really, really scared, I really like the book. That's a book that I get really, really excited about. The reason I read is to feel something. I just want to feel something. You'll notice that the scores are out of 100, and that's because it's just easier to calculate, turn those numbers into a decimal system, and they're not related to school, right? It's not like 50% you get an F, and that's why you'll see in the benchmarks that each one has a description so that I can sort of associate my experience with the book with those numerical values. What you're doing is you're taking an emotion, which is entirely abstract, and then you're trying to turn it into a number, which is abstract because a number does not indicate an emotion. The second category on my list is recommendability, 25%. When I'm done with a book, I want to tell people about it, and I want to recommend it to people, even if it's just like a certain type of person. So you can see in the benchmarks, it even says something along the lines of like, if I gave it 100 out of 100, that means it's recommendable to anyone and everyone. Wide appeal, or I believe that it has wide appeal. It's only like, 75 is when it's highly recommendable and recommendable to the people who are going to like it. The next category, the third, is engagement. So another really important part of a book is that kind of unput down ability. I think for a lot of readers, this might be the highest weighting if people were to create a scorecard like this. I feel like a lot of people would say, I need something that's like, what's going to happen next, to stay up in the middle of the night stuff. Then is cohesion and execution. I feel like these last 3 categories, a high rating on the scorecard doesn't affect the overall rating very much. And I do feel like these kind of hit the check boxes of like what you would think about writing a book report, but they are still pretty important to me. I really hate when a book is poorly edited. It takes me entirely out of the story. If there's a spelling error, it's really, really, really hard for me to get over that. And I will remember it forever. There's spelling errors in Red, White, and Royal Blue. That's a book that I love, but it was not a 5-star because I remember spelling errors. And I will also dock a book some stars if there is a clunky presentation of the themes or messaging in the book. Obviously, it's only 10% of the score, so it doesn't mean that I absolutely hate a book if it has that problem. These benchmarks also cover plot holes, and plot holes don't bother me too much, but if it's egregious and I'm noticing it, then I wanted to build into this scoring system the idea that it's important to judge a book based on its intentions or its attempts at a certain impact, not necessarily what I want the book to be. Going back to the scorecard here, a really, really good example of this is actually Orbital by Samantha Harvey. I decided to judge Orbital based off of sort of a literary sci-fi kind of subgenre, and I created the same format where I have scoring benchmarks and then I have those guidelines, and I put together a contemporary literary science fiction like subgenre, because that's a thing. You can see that I actually really didn't care very much for Orbital. However, I do want there to be some sort of accounting for it hitting the mark for what it's trying to do. I think it is at the top of its class when it comes to contemporary literary science fiction. So the genre-specific strengths category only accounts for 10%, but it's the one part of this whole scoring system where I apply a different metric to each book depending on what the book requires. And then the last one is writing quality and style, which is also a 10% weighting. Writing style and the quality of the writing really matters to me. I really hate when I'm reading a book and it sounds like a 12-year-old wrote it. So this category accounts for bad writing, bad dialogue, and bad editing as well. I think of like Beloved is like, that's the 100 out of 100 like benchmark here. That is not only writing that is beautiful, but it's also really impactful. It's also something that is challenging and communicative of its themes and emotions and messaging. The reason why it's only 10% is because I don't want to knock a book just because it's not Toni effing Morrison. Like, you can look at Drowning by TJ Newman. I gave that 4.25 stars. Based on the benchmarks, I rated the writing quality and style strong and engaging. I didn't say it was lyrical and evocative and deliberate. It's none of those things, but it's also not supposed to be those things. And that's why this only accounts for 10%. I'm fine with it being 4.25. That feels really, really good for a popcorn thriller book for me. Like, I'm so into that because my benchmark is not all other thrillers. That's what I have the genre specific strengths one for. My benchmark is all of the books that I read. As a mood reader, you gotta bring it all if you want the 5-star. That is that on the scorecard stuff. So I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know how y'all rate your books, if you have a system, if it's just a gut check, if you rate your books at all. When you think about what ratings actually mean, it's preposterous. Everyone rates their stuff differently. I literally just demonstrated how I probably rate books differently from you. Ratings don't really mean anything. However, it is kind of fun. Before we go, I'll give you a quick reading update. I've got Say Nothing by Patrick Radden Keefe. I'm about 3/4 of the way through. I was expecting it to be a bit more riveting than it is, but I'm still very into it. I've started The Nightmare Before Christmas on audiobook specifically. When I work out is when I've been listening to it. It's okay. I'm just not sure what I'm supposed to like about these characters. Not that they're unlikable, I just am not feeling very attached. I'm reading Beartown by Frederick Bachman. I'm about 1/3 of the way through, a little more than 1/3 of the way through. His writing is so digestible, or at least the translation of his writing is so digestible. There are a lot of characters though, and as someone with practically no working memory, that's really, really hard for me, especially like who's related to who's dating who, in what grade people are. That's so hard for me. Last but not least, Clear by Karis Davies. I started the audiobook while I was cleaning yesterday and then suddenly found myself not paying attention. So I had to stop it and I'm gonna go back to the last thing that I really remember. That is just a quick little reading update. I need to go. I have a lot to do today. So stay tuned for my next video where I'm going to talk about winter TBR, what I am going to be reading like for this winter. This is like my quarterly TBR. Don't forget to check out the last video that I made, which is my ins and outs of 2025, what trends I want to see in 2025 and what trends I just want to leave behind in 2024. Thanks for hanging out. If you enjoyed this, click like, click subscribe, click the little bell, leave a comment below. All of that really helps keep the conversation going. Thank you so much. Have a great day and happy reading.